Before the mission, I asked Alvin one last time, "Will you marry me?" He paused for a moment, then said, "All right." The system and I both felt a jolt. Oh no. Wasn't I supposed to be rejected 100 times before I could return to the real world? As it turned out, it was all a false alarm. For the final mission, I accidentally became a scapegoer for his first love. Alvin spent 3 days with his first love before remembering me. But by then, all he heard was the news of my sacrifice in the line of duty. Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. Host, there's really no need to rush, the system whispered in my mind. It's your birthday today. No one wants to be rejected on their birthday. My breathing echoed in the quiet corridor. I had just finished a 3-month-long assignment abroad. Now, exhausted, I was dragging myself to see Alvin Lambert. There was no other reason. After spending 7 years in this world, I wanted to go home. All I needed was to be rejected by Alvin 100 times. And I could return to the real world. Coincidentally, the system had just informed me that I only had one more rejection to go. On the other side of the door, Alvin was on the phone. A woman's voice came through on speaker, her sobs soft and moving. "Alvin, I know you've been with Lexi for 3 years. I shouldn't be bothering you, but I can't help it." The response was a long silence. On the other end of the line was Connie Perry, Alvin's first love. Over the years, she was largely responsible for Alvin's repeated rejections of me. Alvin changed the subject. "When are you coming back?" "I'll welcome you home." "In what capacity will you welcome me?" "As an ex." There was a moment of silence on the other end, followed by words tinged with defiance. "Ex, I'm getting married. On the 20th of this month. I'd like to invite you to the wedding." Alvin seemed to be angry, uttering one word in a deep voice, "Connie." The other person hung up. The system let out a cheer. "Oh ho! Host, rush in now. While he's in a bad mood, ask him to marry you." In the past, I would never have sought trouble at a time like this. But the prospect of going home had injected a spring of life into my dull mood. I eagerly pushed open the door. Stepping into darkness. Alvin sat in front of the large floor-to-ceiling window, with the city lights behind him. His face was partially illuminated by the light from his phone, outlining his superior, clear-cut features. Seeing me, he turned off his phone and leaned back, closing his eyes. His tone was unfriendly. "Why are you here?" You see, even with the calendar right in front of him, he had forgotten my birthday. My palms were sweaty with nervousness. "I have a mission tomorrow." In the real world, I was a police academy graduate. So in this world, I had resolutely chosen to be a police officer. Alvin pinched the bridge of his nose, his tone particularly cold. "So what? Do you need something? After the mission is over, could you marry me?" The system was already exploding in my head. Ah! I've finally completed the task. I'm going to be promoted, yeah. Alvin's pitch-black eyes reflected my image. His slightly furrowed brow displayed his displeasure. I took a deep breath, lowered my head, and quietly waited for him to give me the answer I wanted. Actually, after liking him for so long, being rejected was quite heartbreaking. But the system said it would give me money, lots and lots of money. Money I could use in the real world. All right. What? The system's cheers came to an abrupt halt. I looked up in shock, meeting Alvin's extremely calm gaze. He slowly caressed his phone. I said, "Okay." A few seconds later, the system and I simultaneously uttered a curse. Bloody hell. I hid in the bathroom. The pent-up resentment finally exploded. Popping champagne on the way. "You really are your boss's perfect employee." The system also bristled. "It's all your fault. Why did you have to remind him it's your birthday today? Can't men keep their cheap guilt to themselves?" My head was throbbing. Days of overtime had drained all my energy. I leaned weakly against the sink. The system meekly suggested, "Why don't you ask him to sleep with you now?" I let out a cold laugh. Should I ask him to drop dead instead? If only it were that easy. The creators of this game had eliminated all possibilities of loopholes. From the very beginning. Words like sex and death were among a series of restricted terms that couldn't be spoken, and reasons of being rejected couldn't be repeated. After 7 years, being refused for marriage was one of the few methods left that could be used. Things had reached an impasse. The sound of running water echoed in the bathroom. I sat on the toilet, pondering the next request that could be rejected. Suddenly, my phone rang with an unknown number. When I answered, a woman's gentle voice came through. "Miss Murphy, this is Connie Perry." I gripped the sink tightly. Faced with my silence, Connie laughed softly, sounding slightly smug. "You might not be familiar with me, but that's all right. I'm very familiar with you. I've eaten the lunch boxes you made for Alvin. I've worn the white shirts you washed for him. Last time when he rushed to see me after celebrating your birthday with you, his tie clips still had your hair caught in it." I leaned against the bathtub, my tone icy. "So what?" Connie chuckled. "Are you really this dumb or just pretending? Can't you see? Last year on your birthday, I gave him my first time. This year I specifically came back on your birthday, and he even forgot about it. Do I need to spell out who Alvin truly loves?" I stared at my face in the mirror. 7 years had etched fine lines around my eyes. The eyes that once lit up at the sight of Alvin were now filled with numbness. I took a deep breath. "There's no need, because Alvin is going to marry me." There was a pause on the other end, then Connie's voice turned sharp. "You don't need to try and upset me with such words. You can't compete with me." Alvin was knocking on the door. I put the phone behind my back, suddenly opened the door, and asked softly, "Will you come with me to try on wedding dresses tomorrow?" Alvin was taken aback, then hugged me, his tone unusually affectionate. "Of course. On our wedding day, you'll be the most beautiful bride." I hung up the phone. Fighting back nausea, I accepted Alvin's kiss. "Connie Perry, I hope you're up for the challenge. Don't disappoint me." That night, I waited for a long time, but Connie's call to Alvin never came. Passionate kisses covered my skin. Alvin seemed particularly enthusiastic. But at the last moment, I suddenly stopped him. "I have a mission tomorrow, let's leave it at this," I said. Alvin looked unsatisfied. I pushed him away, turned my back to him, and wrapped myself tightly in the duvet. After a long silence, Alvin sighed, "All right." Soon after, the sound of running water came from the bathroom. The system coincided with my concerns. Did we push too hard earlier? Has Connie given up? "I doubt it," I said. Knowing Connie, she wouldn't give up on Alvin even if it killed her. The next day dawned gloomy. Unusually, Alvin hadn't left early but was sitting at the breakfast table with me. The occasional clink of cutlery broke the silence in the living room. Alvin spoke up. "After this mission, switch to a desk job. You're my wife now, you don't need to work so hard." The system was directing me in my mind. "I want scrambled eggs." I kept my eyes down, cutting the ham. "Okay." Alvin continued as if briefing his secretary. "From now on, I'll be at the office Wednesday through Friday. And I'll be home the rest of the time. I don't want you coming to the office to see me." The system wailed, "No cheese. Give me toast instead." I smiled slightly. "All right." Alvin frowned as he watched me finish my milk, push back my chair, and start to leave. "Lexi," he called. I turned back. "Yes?" Alvin stared at me. "You've never been this agreeable before. What's going on today?" To be honest, I hadn't listened to a word he'd said earlier. "Nothing," I said. I smiled. Maybe good things are on the horizon. Alvin tugged at his tie, his straight lips betraying his inner turmoil. "You see, he's 100% against marrying me." I smirked. "Hey, Alvin, can you wish me a safe return?" Alvin snapped out of his thoughts. After a moment, he said, "Come back safe." "Thanks," I said, turning to leave. The system chimed in. Well, that was anticlimactic. I thought he wouldn't be able to say it. I've been transmigrated into this world for 7 years. And the public safety has been quite good. Serious incidents rarely occur. I never expected that my last patrol would end up like this. A severe kidnapping case. The kidnapper demanded a ransom of £30 million, plus a van for his escape from the city. When I arrived at the scene, a light rain was falling from the sky. My colleague Shelley was sitting on the stairs. When she saw me coming, her eyes were red. Lexi, the negotiation expert, has already gone in. The kidnapper's demand is to exchange hostages. Exchange hostages? Yes, because the current hostage is a pregnant woman. All my colleagues fell silent. In this situation, if the kidnapper agrees to change hostages, one of us would have to step in. So, has the person been chosen? Shelley bit her lip. He wants a woman. There were only 2 female officers in our team, Shelley and me. Shelley's husband is in the criminal investigation department and was recently injured. He's still in the hospital. I unholstered my gun and handed it to Shelley. I understand. I'll go. The system in my head started screaming. Host, this is not a game. If you die accidentally, you'll never be able to go back. But I couldn't let Shelley go. For 7 years, Shelley has been with me far longer than Alvin. We are the best partners. Shelley burst into tears and hugged me. Lexi, I'm sorry. I know you're about to get married. I'm so sorry, but my husband is still in the hospital. I know. I patted her shoulder and turned to walk into the rain. This was an abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. Through the misty rain, I saw the woman in the kidnapper's arms. Her pale face couldn't hide her beauty. Long black hair clung to her ears, and her large eyes looked pitiful. She was trying hard to protect her belly. Please, save me. I'm pregnant. I'm carrying the heir of the Lambert family. My heart skipped a beat. The system reminded me, it's Connie Perry. We looked at each other across the rain. I couldn't describe the feeling in my heart. The vicious kidnapper pierced her skin with a knife, and blood began to flow. Come over here quickly, or I'll send her to heaven. Connie widened her eyes in terror, looking at me. Lexi, please, I can't die. Alvin will go mad. If he knows you didn't save me, he'll hate you forever. It seems she knows my identity. I looked back at Shelley, sighed, then turned and walked towards the kidnapper. The moment the blade was pressed against my neck, Connie stumbled into the police perimeter. Only the kidnapper and I were left. Where's my car? Before getting into the car, the captain gave me a look. According to the plan, they would track the driving route, and I just needed to cooperate with them to take down the kidnapper. I was tied up and thrown into the passenger seat. At the last moment, I saw Alvin break through the crowd. He embraced the fainting Connie. The car sped along the empty motorway. The ropes had cut into my flesh, leaving me bloodied. The last police car disappeared into the rain behind us. The kidnapper chuckled coldly. Don't bother. They won't come to save you. What do you mean? He turned on the radio and started humming along. Connie's interview was playing. She sounded disoriented, as if severely shocked. I heard the kidnappers say they're meeting in South London. Please, save her. Meanwhile, we were racing towards North London. Soon, the police force would be diverted to the south. The kidnapper brought me to a dilapidated cottage in the countryside. He pulled out a knife. Miss Perry is much prettier than you. I wonder what Mr. Lambert sees in you. Even I wasn't foolish enough to miss that he and Connie were working together. I dodged his blade. Please, let me make a phone call. The kidnapper scoffed. To whom? Your captain? Dream on. To Alvin Lambert. At this, the kidnapper laughed. He kicked me. Officer Murphy, are you lovesick? Do you really think you mean anything to Alvin Lambert? He grabbed my hair and pressed my mobile to my face. Go on then. After a few rings, the call was rejected. The kidnapper grew more excited and dialed again. The call was rejected once more. He seemed to be enjoying himself, staring at my face, repeatedly dialing and hanging up, trying to catch a glimpse of my despair. But I disappointed him. Enraged, he plunged the knife into my back. The pain was excruciating, and I let out a muffled groan. He pressed against my neck, unusually excited. Let's play a game, shall we? Tell Alvin Lambert your location. If he doesn't get here in half an hour, you'll bleed to death. Warm liquid flowed from my back, soaking my uniform. The call finally connected. Alvin's voice was ice cold. What is it? My teeth were chattering from the pain. He's in North London. Who? The suspect. He's kidnapped me. I'm with him. Alvin was silent for a moment. Lexi, is this some kind of joke? I coughed up blood, my speech becoming slurred. Alvin. Enough. It was the first time Alvin had spoken to me with such a sharp tone. There are things I haven't told you before. Connie is my bottom line. You don't need to use this to test my feelings. If you're jealous, just stay in your North London. I'm not asking you to risk your life for her. Another stab. The kidnapper thrust the knife in again. It hurt so much. It hurts so much. I clung to the phone like a lifeline, begging through tears. Alvin, will you marry me? Will you come find me now? Please? Alvin was silent for a moment, then spoke with icy indifference. Connie is pregnant. Everything I said before is void. Ding! Task objective achieved, rejected by the male lead 100 times. Congratulations, task completed. Calculating rewards. Calculation complete. Task reward £80 million, severe injury compensation, £30 million, total, £110 million. Special reward, talent point police intuition. Countdown 3 seconds, preparing to exit the world. Welcome back to reality, have a pleasant life. As the darkness faded, I found myself holding a bouquet. Bright sunlight filtered through the plane trees, casting dazzling spots of light. I remembered. It was midsummer, and I had just graduated from the police academy. The senior I had a crush on came to attend my graduation ceremony. A hand reached out in front of me. Its owner, dressed in a police uniform, smiled warmly. I heard you helped the professors solve several big cases. May I get to know you? Midnight struck. Connie was fast asleep. The clock in the corner ticked steadily. Alvin had just finished speaking with the doctor. Exhausted, he leaned back on the sofa. For some reason, his right eyelid kept twitching. Connie had suffered a shock, and they had nearly lost the baby. Alvin had cancelled all his work commitments to stay by Connie's side. For 3 whole days. As he sat in the quiet, Alvin suddenly felt a twinge in his chest. A face appeared in his mind's eye. Lexi Murphy. Alvin closed his eyes briefly, unable to untangle the complex emotions he was feeling in that moment. He thought he loved Connie. But faced with the woman lying in bed, he felt nothing. He thought Lexi was dispensable. But on this night, his longing for her was growing wild. He picked up his phone and opened his chat with Lexi. The last message was from 2 weeks ago. A smiley face from Lexi. And a brief thank you. At the time, Lexi had wanted to go for sushi. He had put it off for days, but suddenly felt like having company, so he chose Lexi. He remembered Lexi looking beautiful that day, wearing light makeup. During the meal, even though he had refused the wasabi she offered, and declined many things he didn't eat, Lexi had still been happy. She was always so obedient and understanding, almost submissive in her role as the lesser party in their relationship. 7 years. Without realizing it, Lexi had been by his side for 7 years. Longer than he had been with Connie. Alvin knew very well that Lexi would make a suitable wife. He had grown accustomed to her presence. But looking at the chat that had been silent for 3 days, Alvin's eyes darkened. Had he been too harsh a few days ago, frightening her away? Alvin lowered his gaze and typed out a message. Have you learned your lesson? She shouldn't have used Connie's situation to test his feelings. Push too hard, and things break. He hoped Lexi would understand this principle one day. Before he could send the message, his assistant's call came through. Mr. Lambert, the police officer who acted as a hostage for Ms. Perry, didn't make it. With several matters weighing on his mind, Alvin's tone was impatient. Find the family and give them £200,000 to settle it. Saving people is part of a police officer's job. Do some PR work, don't let any mud be slung at Connie. The assistant hesitated. Alvin asked, anything else? Miss Murphy. Speaking of Lexi. He turned on the television, casually instructing. Buy a gift for Lexi, deliver it when she's on holiday. A necklace or a watch, your choice. Well, considering how pitifully she had cried the other day, he realized it might not be impossible after all. He was going to marry her eventually, wasn't he? The TV came to life. Lexi's photo appeared on the screen. He stared impassively at the words Lexi Murphy. Multiple stab wounds and sacrifice placed side by side. For a few seconds, he couldn't process the meaning of those words. Until his assistant's trembling voice came through. Mr. Lambert, I was about to say, Miss Murphy died in the line of duty. You didn't know? She was the police officer who sacrificed herself. The thunderous slam of the door jolted Connie from her slumber. Connie chased after Alvin, desperately pleading with him not to leave, even falling to the ground in her desperation. When she looked up, even Alvin's silhouette had vanished from sight. Alvin started his car. His assistant tried to reason with him. Mr. Lambert, you're not in the right state to drive. Please wait, I'll send a driver to pick you up. Alvin's voice was chillingly cold, the address. Mr. Lambert. I said, the address. His hands were shaking on the steering wheel. You think a mere woman could affect me this much? The assistant gave him the address. Half an hour later, Alvin stumbled into the morgue, his eyes immediately fixing on the body in the center. It was covered with a white sheet. Shelley, Lexi's colleague, stood behind with red-rimmed eyes. You must be Lexi's boyfriend. She told me about you, said there was someone she loved deeply for 7 years. Alvin's trembling hands pulled back the white sheet, revealing the all-too-familiar face. Colorless. Eyes closed, lying there peacefully. Alvin suddenly seemed drained of all strength. He grasped Lexi's hand, his voice hoarse. Did they try to save her? Why wasn't she taken to the hospital? Why? There wasn't time, Shelley choked out. She was gone by the time we arrived. Multiple stab wounds, died from blood loss. The police have identified the suspect as the same person who kidnapped Miss Perry. Alvin suddenly turned, glaring fiercely at Shelley. How can it be the same person? Connie said they were in South London. Shelley was taken aback. There are 2 possibilities. Either Miss Perry was deceived by the kidnappers and gave us false information, or Connie Perry herself has connections with the kidnappers. Impossible, Alvin's mind went blank. He turned back to caress Lexi's face. It's not possible. Lexi, it's not true, is it? If what Shelley said was true, it meant he had hung up on Lexi's call for help with his own hands. It was he who had pushed Lexi into hell with his own hands. But Lexi could no longer speak. Her face bore wounds that would never heal. Alvin, red-eyed, slowly uncovered the rest of her body. Bruises and knife wounds covered her entire body. Her skin had turned a ghastly white from blood loss. She still wore a furrowed brow. One could imagine her final moments of despair. Shelley, unaware of Alvin's cruelty, treated him seriously as Lexi's family. She handed Lexi's belongings to Alvin and patted his shoulder. We won't let the person who hurt Lexi get away. If there's any news, I'll let you know immediately. She wiped her tears, laughing and crying at the same time. You 2 were about to get married, weren't you? Lately, I often heard Lexi talking about going home and such. You know, Lexi lost both her parents, she's been alone all these years. She finally met you. You must be a wonderful person. My condolences. Alvin's body shook, nearly dropping Lexi's belongings. His assistant was right. He certainly couldn't drive himself now. When the assistant found him, Alvin was sitting on the edge of a flower bed outside the police station. The high spray from the fountain had soaked him completely. Connie was the first to run out of the car, throwing herself in front of Alvin, crying. Alvin, what's wrong with you? Alvin's gaze slowly moved to Connie's face. That tear-stained face now only filled him with disgust. Lexi is dead. Miss Murphy. Connie trembled, her eyes widening in shock. A tear perfectly poised on her lower lashes, making her look pitiful. She kept trying to burrow into Alvin's arms. They were so frightening, Alvin. Those kidnappers were terrifying. Won't you hold me? Alvin sat motionless. I never said it was the kidnappers who did it. Connie's body went rigid, looking at Alvin in disbelief. Alvin suddenly pushed her away. Weren't you going to get married? Go ahead then. Stop clinging to me. Alvin. Connie broke into sobs. Don't push me away, please. Alvin stood up. Before, I didn't understand why you agreed to marry a cripple. Now, I don't even want to understand. Since the invitations have been sent out, I'll have someone help you finalize this marriage. I wish you and him a lifetime of happiness. The men the assistant had brought stepped forward and restrained Connie. She panicked. Alvin, no, I don't want to marry that cripple. I was just saying that, I wanted to make you jealous. I want to marry you. Alvin disgustedly wiped clean the fingers that had touched her, carefully cradling Lexi's belongings, and turned to walk into the night. For the first time in 7 years, Alvin took a serious look into Lexi's past. She didn't have many possessions, nor did she have many hobbies. Her only notebook was filled with his preferences. Alvin doesn't like lamb, dislikes sweets, enjoys spicy food. Below was a small note. But cumin lamb is the best. My sweet tooth thinks desserts are delicious. I hate spicy food, my stomach can't handle it. He doesn't like people touching things in his study. I accidentally touched something while cleaning. If I tell him, I'll be disliked. He doesn't like people watching soap operas. If I invite him to watch with me, will he refuse? The last sentence read, he has a first love, he doesn't like me. Memories of the past suddenly flooded back. She carefully pushed the cumin lamb and newly bought desserts in front of him, her eyes sparkling, hoping he would take a bite. On a busy weekend, she quietly opened the door and timidly asked, do you want to watch a TV series with me? And then there was the time she unintentionally messed up his study. Each of these instances was Lexi's plea for so-called tolerance and love. And what about him? He made rejecting her a habit. When he saw her face turn red from eating spicy food, and she asked to change the dish, he casually said, I quite like it, no need to change. Some things, when looked back upon, make you realize how much of a jerk you were at the time. Lexi had lived like this for 7 years. Her notes became increasingly detailed and meticulous. Alvin felt a sharp pain in his chest as he looked at the handwriting. Was she made of clay? Why didn't she have any temper? She persistently recorded one person's likes and dislikes, yet never realized that all the pickiness stemmed from the other person's lack of heart. Alvin stayed alone in the room for a long time. Connie's phone calls rang over and over again, finally ending on the day she married another man. Time was flying by, but Lexi's face became increasingly clear. Did he love Lexi? He didn't before. And now? He didn't know. His unfortunate childhood and his father's pathologically strict upbringing destined him to pursue pure love all his life. He couldn't forget Connie because that year, he was at his lowest. Connie was the first person to approach him, disregarding his family background and status. Her image and voice were like an anchor, hooking him to blindly seek that remaining warmth for the rest of his life. Then came Lexi. He speculated endlessly, thinking Lexi was after his power and status. So he split his heart in two, half to pursue his first love, half to test true love. He thought that if he was heartless enough, cruel enough, he could play with others' true feelings like a god. However, those who play with true feelings will eventually face retribution. This moment came 7 years too late, when he discovered that Lexi had always loved him steadfastly. The attachment he had deliberately suppressed out of fear. For countless days and nights came rushing in like a flood. As the tide receded, Lexi was gone, leaving only an eroded, mottled mudflat. A barren, dirty land cannot nurture the seeds of love. So Lexi left. This reality was like poison, corroding his internal organs. He missed her so much. Missed her to the point of dying. Alvin lay on the sofa for a very long time. Lexi's pillow was clutched in his arms. After a while, his phone lit up and started vibrating frantically. The person on the sofa stirred and answered the phone, his voice hoarse. Who is it? Shelley's hysterical roar came through the phone. You bastard! Didn't Lexi make a last call to you? She must have called you before she died. I don't believe she didn't tell you her location. I can't believe that after all these years, you're still ambiguous with Connie. Do you know that Connie Perry is in cahoots with the kidnappers? You pair of scumbags, murderers. Alvin listened quietly, at that moment, like a man sentenced to death. His eyes lifeless. His chest hurt badly. The nausea rising from the pit of his stomach made him stagger to his feet and fall to his knees beside the trash can. The violent movement knocked over the beer bottle on the coffee table. Alvin vomited violently, with traces of blood in the vomit. Shelley broke into tears. What did she say to you? I was supposed to be her best friend. Why did she call a scumbag like you? She must have been in so much pain before she died. The last bit of color drained from Alvin's face. He thought of that last phone call. In it, Lexi cried and told him it hurt so much. She said, "Will you marry me?" She said, "Please save me, will you?" And his reply was, "Connie is pregnant." Everything I said before is void. The phone dropped to the ground with a clatter, shattering into pieces. Alvin knew he was finished. He fell to his knees, covered his face, and started laughing. I'm a bastard, haha, I'm a bastard. Connie went missing 3 days later. Now the disappearance case and the kidnapping case were being investigated together. Everyone suspected that the kidnappers had turned on Connie. A few days later, they discovered the kidnappers' hideout. There were signs of a struggle at the scene. Evidence showed that the kidnappers had been dragged away by an adult male. Shelley thought of Alvin. She went to the Lambert house. She saw Alvin Lambert. After not seeing him for days, he had lost a lot of weight. His eye sockets were sunken, but his expression was surprisingly calm. Have you had any contact with Connie or the kidnappers recently? Alvin said, no. Have you been anywhere recently? No. Shelley stayed with him for 2 hours. Alvin showed no signs of weakness until he received a call from an unknown number. Alvin got up and went to his study. On the phone was Connie's crying. Alvin, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get Lexi killed. I didn't know the kidnapper was a psychopath. I just wanted to teach her a lesson. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't have done this. Alvin calmly looked straight ahead and said to the person on the other end of the phone, Connie should die the same way Lexi died. What about the baby in her belly? Alvin was silent for a moment. If it's not born yet, it's just a piece of flesh. Don't worry about it. Connie's agonized screams came from the other end. You see, it was so painful. But when Lexi called him, she only said 2 words, "It hurts." Alvin quietly listened to her screams, which gradually subsided. At this moment, Shelley rushed in and grabbed Alvin's collar. Where the hell did you take Connie? Alvin smiled indifferently. What's it to you? Shelley gritted her teeth. What do you mean? As long as the suspect is not in custody, Lexi can't be buried. Do you want Lexi to be restless even in death? Alvin looked as if he had been slapped. He was stunned for a long time. After a while, he revealed the location of Connie and the kidnappers. When the police arrived, Connie was already dead. Alvin suddenly jumped out of the car on the way back to the police station. He climbed up a large bridge. The wind over the river blew his hair. The sunset on the horizon was dazzling. Alvin looked at the surging water and forced a smile. Lexi, I'm coming to find you. I'll die with you. Will you continue to love me? The next second, under everyone's gaze, Alvin jumped. Lexi, did you have a nightmare? Lexi suddenly sat up from her desk, looking visibly shaken. Clive Avery placed his hand on her forehead. You're not feverish, but you look pale. Do you want to go home and rest? Lexi closed her eyes briefly, trying to push the dream's images out of her mind. It's nothing. It had been 2 months since she returned to the real world. This was the first time she had dreamed of Alvin. It seemed like he had jumped off a bridge. Lexi didn't have much of an emotional reaction to this. This 7-year relationship hadn't been as devastating as one might imagine. Clive closed his folder. The professor's out on assignment today, so I'm in charge. I'll secretly give you a day off. Over these 2 months, she had grown accustomed to working with Clive. He was tolerant and gentle, always providing just the right amount of care at work. Lexi wasn't feeling well, so she didn't refuse. Thanks, Clive. I'll head out then. She picked up her bag, said goodbye to her colleague, and walked out into the sunlight. Then, Lexi saw Alvin. The dense tree canopy couldn't block out the sun's intensity. Light passed through Alvin's body, casting no shadow on the ground. The moment he looked at her, Lexi suddenly realized something and quickly averted her gaze, turning to leave. Suddenly, Alvin's voice came from behind her. Lexi, you're still alive. Lexi quickened her pace. Alvin's tone was urgent. Lexi, please look at me. Talk to me. Lexi seemed to have suddenly hit a nerve, abruptly stopping and turning back with a harsh tone. Yes, I'm alive. I have my own life. Please stay away from me. This was the first time Lexi had spoken to Alvin in such a manner. Alvin stared at her in disbelief. Lexi, I know I was wrong. I avenged you. Connie is dead. Can you forgive me? Lexi had no desire to say more and instead began to call out incoherently. System, are you there? The long-dormant system woke up. What's the matter, bloody hell? Why is he here? I don't know, I saw him as soon as I came out. The task is completed, why is he still appearing in my world? Give me a moment, host. I'll ask the programmer. It must be a bug somewhere. This absolutely shouldn't happen. Alvin overheard Lexi's conversation with the system. Lexi, who's talking? What task? Lexi, what are you saying? Lexi spoke in a flat tone. Don't you know? The reason I was entangled with you for 7 years was because I accepted a task. I just needed to be rejected by you 100 times. And then I could return to reality and receive a hefty reward. Alvin's head buzzed, feeling dizzy. That's impossible. You're lying to me, aren't you? The system returned, sorry, host. There was indeed a bug. The programmer says it will take 3 days to fully recover. You'll have to bear with this bloke for these 3 days. But don't worry, he can't harm you. All right, thanks for your hard work. Lexi seemed unwilling to look at him for even a moment longer, and turned to open her car door. Today was the day her house was being handed over. The best location in the city center, with the best interior designer hired. She had chosen vibrant colors for the house's decor, a stark contrast to the world she shared with Alvin. Alvin was forced to remain bound to Lexi's side. He saw a long-lost vibrancy on Lexi's face. His heart was filled with indescribable emotions. By the time Lexi finished communicating with the designer, night had fallen. Lexi strolled to the nearby neighborhood, entered a convenience store to buy 2 ice creams, and walked onto a bridge spanning the river. The bridge was covered in neon lights, changing into dazzling colors as time passed. She leaned against the railing, dangling an ice cream, letting the wind blow through her long hair. She looked just like a free bird. Alvin stood at a distance, his voice hoarse. Lexi, did you ever love me? Or was it just completing a task? Lexi turned her head to look at him, smiling as she asked. Do you really think I was just completing a task? Alvin was speechless. The wind ruffled Lexi's crumpled coat. She rubbed her face haphazardly. Smiling, she said. In the 3rd year after I arrived in that world, you nearly lost your life trying to save me, almost crippling one of your legs. I was so moved at the time, crying my eyes out, wishing I could dedicate my life to you. You know, I never had parents growing up. At that moment, I was truly grateful that the system task led me to meet you. Alvin's lips trembled, but he didn't speak. As you can see, Lexi pointed to the distant lights of the city, twinkling like stars. This world is far less prosperous than yours. In the first few years of knowing you, there was this amazing dessert shop near your office. I'd go there every week when I visited you, even got a membership card. I knew the shop owner, Ms. Fenton. She had a dog named Biscuit. Until the day I returned here, Biscuit was still waiting for the beef jerky I'd bring. Lexi. Ignoring him, Lexi continued, then there's my colleague, Shelley. I've crashed at her place for dinner a few times. Her husband makes excellent roast beef, and Shelley is a fantastic cook. She wanted me to be the godmother of her unborn child. I had prepared a gift but never got the chance to give it. Oh, and your housekeeper, Agnes. She's resigning next month to help out at her daughter's pick-your-own farm. She once brought me some long, sweet blackberries, as sweet as honey. I actually, really wanted to stay. But before I knew it, you had rejected me 99 times. Lexi's smile pierced Alvin's heart. He gripped the bridge railing tightly, his chest aching. I'm sorry. He couldn't even bring himself to ask the question burning in his heart. Lexi finished her ice cream and dusted off her hands. It's all right. You can stay for the full 3 days. After all these years, we've never really talked properly. 3 days isn't a long time, but it felt longer than the past 7 years. Alvin silently observed Lexi as she worked, lived, and visited friends. He realized that Lexi truly loved sweets and enjoyed joking with others. When she talked about something that made her happy, her eyes would crinkle into crescents. She would rescue stray cats and dogs on the street, buy meals for homeless elderly people, and when she was taken advantage of, she would argue her case logically, leaving the other person speechless in just a few sentences. He had thought Lexi was a declawed cat. At this moment, he realized he was wrong. Lexi was a living, breathing person with her own joys and sorrows. She would feel disappointed when rejected and sad when stood up. The person she liked should be someone like Clive Avery, who was responsive to everything. Not a bastard who didn't even give her dignity. The longer Alvin observed, the more silent he became. At first, he could still chat with Lexi occasionally, but in the end, he couldn't say a word. He had traveled through time and space to this strange world, only to face a mirror. In the mirror, he saw himself as a rotten piece of flesh. It was almost midnight. Lexi and he were walking one after another on a tree-lined path. Perhaps he was about to die, and the flashbacks he had experienced when jumping into the river suddenly overwhelmed him at this moment. 7 years of time flashed by quickly before his eyes. That shadow finally froze on the back in front of him. Alvin heard the distant sound of bells. He stopped in his tracks. Lexi seemed to sense something too and stopped. Alvin asked the question he most wanted to ask. Did it hurt when you left that day? Lexi didn't turn around. Her voice was very soft. Yes, he stabbed me 3 times. Thanks to you, it really hurt quite a bit. The wind blew silently from afar, howling as it passed. Alvin couldn't shed tears. He just felt like he was dying inside. I don't deserve forgiveness. Alvin fell to his knees. Lexi, please erect a tombstone for me. In the next life, I want to live in your world. His words were met with silence. Under the night sky, a mechanical electronic voice was heard. System upgrade successful, bug has been fixed. Preparing to transfer the outsider, countdown 3, 2, 1. Lexi didn't turn around, nor did she hear his words completely. She didn't even have time to hear the system finish speaking. She just paused briefly for a few seconds before continuing to step forward.